What's up, y'all? It's the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. Once again, it's Wednesday. It's a podcast about history, politics, and race from a pop culture perspective from two handsome brothers. We're going to break it down simple and plain so that you guys will understand it. I'm a filmmaker from Trinidad and Tobago, so I've traveled a lot. I've always had a love for history and politics. Chris is a veteran of the Army Reserves that works for the VA with a passion for history and politics as well. We always say it's about truth. We're not pro any race, just pro truth. Just pro truth. If the truth offends you, we're sorry, not sorry. Don't forget to follow us on social media, guys. What else? rptalktruth@gmail.com is the email. If you have you want to email anything, and leave all your comments and stuff in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. All that good stuff. What are we talking about today, Chris?
Black history. Black history's part in the U.S. history and what's not taught.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so Chris has a topic this week. You just heard it. So he's going to jump it off and break it down. I'm going to chime in and take notes and stuff, and so that I can interject with, good thoughts and ideas on what he's talking about. So there it is.
So we all know about Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, I think that's the normal one that everyone knows about.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And Rosa Parks. Right? Because they were all discussed and brought up while in school, as part of your class. History tells us that Abraham Lincoln freed slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. But did you know that he had planned to send ex-slaves to the Caribbean islands in Central America?
Nah.
Interesting fact, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I will say in my research, it ended when, the discussion stopped ish after he did the Emancipation Proclamation. But the fact that they planned on, but it was voluntary though. I will say that it was voluntary. It wasn't just put them back on boats and throw them away.
Yeah.
And there were experiments, and this is kind of going off the subject, but just, adding some things I found. So my point is the contributions of African Americans to the United States is elaborate and strikingly missing from history books in school. I think it's highly important to teach about important figures in elementary school so children's minds are not narrowed and limited.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a child, you will look up to certain people or consider their impact with history highly. So as a child will look at certain people, so let's say black people, and consider their impact to be in history just simple because that's what they were taught. Last week we talked about when we were kings, and some of the things you were saying is how we don't hear about all these, you were giving those information about those people, the people who did some remarkable things. And so that's my point is when you're in school and you're learning your history of America, of the United States, and there's nothing being presented about blacks, Asians, Indians, whatever nationality, if you're not hearing about that, you wouldn't think that your culture, your race, your ethnic group is actually doing anything. Not providing something of substance to that nation, that whatever. So it would be.
Let me chime in real quick though, because going back to So those three people you named in the beginning, it was Harriet Tubman, MLK, who was the other one?
Rosa Parks.
Okay. Now, see, this is the thing that trips me out, and it takes me back to what we were talking about last week. I mean, and no disrespect to Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
But she got up and sat in the back of a bus.
Well, she sat in the front of the bus. She just didn't get up.
Yeah, got up and sat in the front of the bus.
Yeah.
Big deal. And you know what? I may get bashed for saying this, but when you think about the other things that happened of great significance, what does this mean that she actually, didn't go to the back of the bus, refused to go to the back of the bus. What about the black woman that the movie Hidden Figures was actually made about? What about teaching us about her? You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
How if it wasn't for her, we couldn't even go up into space.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead, though, they focus on Tubman,
Yep.
MLK, and Rosa Parks.
Now, the only thing I'm going to say about Rosa Parks is she, sitting up in front. Sitting there in front, people yelled and screamed at her and stuff. So it's not like she, but go ahead.
Going back to your point, in history, they make a big deal about these simplistic things that really wouldn't have had any major impact on us as a people to actually progress us in a more positive, non-oppressive way. But I'm not saying these people's histories shouldn't count.
I think Harry Tubman's
what I am saying is
pretty important.
They should add the stuff that we did do,
I agree,
along with this stuff.
Yeah.
So Harriet Tubman, she led. What did she do?
The Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad, right?
Yeah.
So let's also talk about all the slaves that invented all the stuff in that same era that never got talked about or credit for.
Correct.
Let's talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But the important is always put on this stuff that won't really have much effect on us as a people as far as progression is actually concerned.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? And I think that stuff is systematic and purposeful.
Correct. So let me continue with it would have been interesting to be taught about Nat Turner. I mean, there was a movie done about it, but it was still been interesting to have had it taught in school. If you know about Nat Turner, he was the leader of a slave rebellion in 1830 in Southampton County, Virginia. The importance is that it was a remarkable instance of black resistance to enslavement. So that's a story that really needed to be put out there. Like, I agree, Harry Tubman, her bringing slaves up north, that's very highly important. Nat Turner would at least have kids under, so in my mind, that would inspire a black child to never give up. And then the understanding is the lengths that slaves went to end and escape slavery. And then there's Sojourner Truth, aka Isabella Bumfree, was a noted speaker for the abolitionist movement. Which, if we abolitionists were the ones who wanted to end slavery, and then she was also involved with the movement for women's rights. She was she died in 1883. So I mean, this is early on. This is so someone having that that will, that desire to make everyone equal. Not just she was not just concerned about blacks, she was concerned about women. I mean, it was her issues because she was a black woman, But and then I want to say, like, growing up in the burbs of Chicago, I had the privilege of visiting the DeSable Museum as a young teen. Very, very interesting spot. I encourage everyone to go visit. But, Jean Baptiste Point DeSable is the first person to build a house in what is now Chicago. That's huge. I mean, now it's a little different because we hear about him, we do have a museum for him, but he's not in the books. Like, if there's a reason to put someone in certain books in certain areas, that would be important, and then you got also people like George Washington Carver. He was known for teaching former slaves farming techniques and the hundreds of uses for peanuts. And then you got Madam C.J. Walker. She created a company to sell hair care products. She was born 1867, died 1919. Wasn't she like the worst millionaire? Yep, she's noted as being the first female, not black female, first female millionaire. To be taught that is an inspiration to all, that becoming a millionaire is possible regardless of color. So these are, these examples don't just benefit blacks. It would benefit all races, because, well, we always, like you last week, we were just talking about how, you got your Jay-Z's and whatnot, but yet when they make money, it's looked at as if they're Illuminati. But, now we have, but if we had learned of how people were making, money, millions before that point, there would be, the discussions wouldn't be that, or the idea of a black person making millions of dollars would not be that.
It wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be that surprising.
Surprising, yeah. Out of reach,
Yeah.
So, and then Thurgood Marshall was the first African American to serve on the United States Supreme Court. Important things, and that one, I'm sure is in the books. But I just want to say that.
Yeah, I think I've heard of Thurgood.
These
Marshall.
are. You think you?
What did he do again? I have. I'm saying
Thurgood Marshall was the first African American to serve on the Supreme Court.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So just my thing is, there's a lot that of black culture, black culture that should be put into our history books, and that's taught at grammar school, elementary grammar, through high school, that could be done. That's not really being done, and it's a disservice to the kids, and it's also a disservice to just that ethnic group, because then they don't get to see representation of themselves, inventing or creating. I mean, same thing, inventing, creating, or discovering. Just, it makes you not feel like you can contribute to society. Like your importance, you're not really that important. Everything was given or provided to us from the white man, and this can go back to something, again, like what you were kind of talking about last week, where we were clothed, fed, and housed by our slave masters, and that was so ingrained in us that, and well, we didn't expect anything better for ourselves. And then when, again, when people did make stuff and did positive things, well, it's the history is there, but it's not being taught in the schools, and I think that that's a disservice to the students,
right,
and to our nation,
right.
Anything?
Yeah, man. I mean, I have a lot to say about this subject. The first thing I want to touch on is how, it's interesting. And it seems as if the history in school just ends at slavery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is why.
Well, ends at civil rights.
Well, yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is they tell you about slavery, though, but they don't go before that.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. It ends at slavery. There's no history they teach.
Actually, it begins and ends at slavery. It's like it's like we got here because we were put in, as slaves. Which seems like, that's the beginning of everything. Right. When if you were to really look at history, you're like, well, okay, so we do get taught about Egypt, but you're never presented with that as being that they're black. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, aren't they on the continent of Africa? They had to be, So it's just how it's glossed over, but never presented as this nation of, it's like Egypt.
Yeah,
it's never, in the African continent, or at about, what did it say? Akabulan. The nation or the country of Egypt. It's it's just Egypt. Right. But then you got South Africa. Oh yeah, that's in Africa. Or Ethiopia.
It was just invaded by the Arabs, Egypt. That's why people look like that. But before it was invaded by the Arabs and taken over, people looked all black. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it's interesting how they try to stop it at slavery, which is why we're going to dedicate an episode to before slavery. What happened before slavery? Have a lot of information about that. And another thing I want to say is, if you have kids out there like me, I have a 14-year-old daughter that's in 8th grade going to 9th grade, and if you have a kid out there, don't leave it up to the school to teach your kid history, especially if they're a black kid, because all the history they're going to learn favors the race that's in control, which is white. it favors the oppressor. They don't want the black kids to know anything great that they did.
Yep.
They want them to know that it was slavery, and then now and just keep, being a consumer and just, you can be all that you want to be, but everything is
But you have a limit, and you have a position a position that you play. You're not just allowed to be any and everything. Yeah. And again, I'll also say that
everything is systemically set up for us to fail.
Yeah. Even though Obama was, elected, and they definitely put him through the ringer, it's not like his president, because currently we're dealing with the aftermath of that, and they're doing everything to undo the great things that President Obama had done, and they're trying to, best word to use is whitewash it so that he was almost never here, and that was the intent of some of the senators, to make sure that he was a one-term president and stuff like that. But
it is hard.
But like as you said, one point I want to get back to is, like you said, don't rely on the schools to present the history that of everything. Like, yes, the kids got to go to school. Yes, they've got to learn what they've got to learn. But we as parents should add to our child's knowledge. We should, definitely have them looking. Even my mother bought me like little playing cards of history, of African American history. And when my son comes, we'll be playing and talking, and looking at those. Those are for him, and he'll definitely have, a wider knowledge than I had at his age. So.
Yeah. And I was going to say too that it's not just a black thing. I think that all races should learn the correct history, because if you're in school and you're a white kid and you have a black friend and it only goes to slavery, you're going to have the wrong perspective of your friend.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I just wanted to just clarify, it shouldn't be just a black thing. Like, all kids should learn the entire truth of what's going on. So if you have a black and brown friend, a white friend, hey man, you guys were this, you guys were that. And I think as a society, we'll be in a far better place if that happened. You know what I mean? So, they need to get their acts together and change these textbooks and put the entire history in there. Don't just give a limited view of one person's race and then show the whole view of your race. And it continually shows you in a position of power and dominance. So, of course, if you're a white kid learning this stuff, this is what you're going to think.
Yeah, I mean...
If you're a black or brown kid learning this stuff, you're going to feel inferior.
Correct.
To the other... I mean, it's just science. It's just facts.
And it does continue to perpetuate through time, because I remember hearing actually, I think the guy was Steve King, a congressman, who said, what achievements have black people done? And he meant it.
What?
Like, are you serious? I can even ask that question. Like, you didn't even look it up, but just the amazement that that's something that's coming out of people's mouths in 2019. But I mean, I blame someone who's older than I, who is acting like they don't know. But if it was a younger person, I kind of, depending on their age, I want to give them a pass, some slide through a pass to say, hey, this is what you need to see, read, watch, whatever, and hopefully, if it's only one person at a time, but if I can, right now we are affecting 1 or 2, 3, 5, people about, let me go look at this and research that. I've I'm happy for myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And there are some black schools there. I remember when I first moved to LA in '96, the people that I was staying with at the time, their kids, they were going to an all-black school in South Central, and I used to go with them to drop their kids off in the morning. It was called, and we'll list these schools for our listeners who may want to know what the school is on, stuff like that. I think it was called Marcus Garvey Academy or something like that. it was interesting, and I know those schools
Yes.
teach and empower the kids with the correct history, and I know Diddy also just, he started those schools in the Queens and the Giaz, something like that.
Yeah.
These charter schools, and I think in his schools too, he's going to be teaching the correct amount of Black history and stuff like that. And I know when you go to a lot of these historically Black colleges, I hear too, they teach a good fair amount of the correct.
I mean, I was going to add that
stuff like that.
The only other time you're going to get more of a particular group's history is most likely college.
Right.
But we should not, it shouldn't be expected that, especially if college was free, I wouldn't necessarily be all about that. But because college isn't free, and the percentage of people going,
and it's too late too.
Correct. You've already formed a lot of your mindset. You can still change possibly, but a lot of the things, like again, even just talking about college right now as we're doing, and as I say that, or what your point just kind of comes to mind is I'm watching videos of kids in high school, white kids, in high school or college, either doing blackface or using the N-word on TV, or talking about how they want to either get rid of, not necessarily, I don't know if anyone used the word kill, just groups, they're like, we got to get rid of all the Black people, but we can keep the Jews or something, just crazy videos. And it kind of, to me, leads back, not only that's probably a lot more of the family, but obviously the family was not educated enough to realize that, that's not, it's not right. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff needs to be taught from the inception, bro. I mean, I'm talking kindergarten on up, preschool on up.
Yeah.
You need to start empowering these kids with their true history, because what do they say? A child's
brain
personality is developed by age 7 or 8 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
What grade are you in when you're 7 or 8? 7th is 5th grade, right? 7th is third. What grade?
No, 7th is
second grade.
3rd grade.
3rd grade, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Anyway, you need to be learning it starting from preschool, bro. Like, seriously. Empowered by who you are and what you are and how you got here, how your ancestors got here. You need to be empowered by that stuff from an early age. So it's a part of the development of your personality.
Yeah. I remember
what you actually become.
And this is kind of maybe off tangent or whatever, but just growing up and looking for positive Black, not necessarily role models or figures, because there were some, and I would say, because you had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, even with all the good or bad he may do or say, Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, just there's people out there, or Dick Gregory,
he was smart.
But the thing I remember always, my parents and even my friends would go out looking for dolls. And they would look for dolls that looked like us, and how hard it was to find at the time, in the 70s and 80s, really, and when the Black Barbie came out, it was a big thing. Yeah,
years later, now you can go to Target,
you can find,
you can see brown dolls and
brown,
white dolls, too,
it's it's now the diversity is there, and it's people, which I kind of get, where some people do get that assumption like things are better, we're all equal. We're all equal in paper, on by what was stated in the Constitution, or to a point. Not even. I'm just saying what's developed, or I should say, since the Civil Rights Act.
To be equal.
Correct. What seems, but what's actually is going on is not. So it's education is very important, and my main thing is that teaching this, adding this curriculum to. So that kids are learning at a younger age across the nation, it'll make this nation better because of diversity,
Yeah,
where
of
other
course.
people
Yeah.
seem to think that it should be only one type.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you learn the actual history, like what actually happened, not some skewed view based on your perception and how you want to skew it to like benefit your race or group of people. It needs to be, the history needs to be told as it is, as it happened.
Correct.
No matter who or what, was disadvantaged in whatever time period. It still needs to be told. I mean, you can go from the Moors and how they conquered, and go from when they didn't rule anymore, and you can just go down the chain. Correct. And you know what I'm trying to say? It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter who did what at what time.
But let's just show the real history. Because if you show the real history and show who invented what, everybody will feel good.
Yeah.
Because you'll find out that, okay, your race invented a bunch of stuff that we still use today, and mine did too. And
you know
together we can invent some stuff together now.
Yeah. And there was something, and I just remembered you had talked about last time where you had said, all the inventions that were brought. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to say is, I don't think either one of us is saying like black people, without blacks, these inventions would have never happened. Yeah. Which is possible, but we're not saying that it would never happen. Obviously, we're just showing that it did happen, and it happened sooner because of the diversity that is in this nation. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
and if we use our embrace our diversity as opposed to trying to split us apart, then it hurts us all. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, no, I was just gonna say, kids need to know that the model airplane was found in Egypt, and helicopter, way before the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
They need to know that, in Egypt they had electricity and all that, and part of the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh, what that has to do with electricity. I mean, they need to know that stuff. This is way before the Wright brothers, way before, and Edison wasn't even one that was created it. Who was the black guy that?
You're gonna have to teach me that one. I didn't know that.
I forget his name.
Oh, the filament.
Yeah. I forgot his name, but yeah, he improved on Edison and the phone and all that kind of stuff. I mean, all these are things that kids need to know. You know what I mean? As a black kid coming up, I was taught, the Wright brothers created the airplane when I was in elementary and junior high. Then when I got to film school, I mean college before film school and stuff, I learned that the model airplane was found in Egypt way before the Wright brothers even existed. So did the helicopter. They have pictures of it.
Oh wow!
You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, so when you learn that, wait a minute, someone that looks like you, thought of the airplane first and the helicopter first.
It makes you feel, empowers you. Yep.
Exactly.
Saying the same word. Yep.
Empowerment, and lets you know, like, hey, I can do that too.
I can do that.
And that
too.
stuff is very important.
Correct.
Which is why whites have always systematically perpetuated what they've invented and the lies and all that they did it first.
His story.
Their story.
Their story.
To empower their own people. You know what I mean? Because that's how. And the thing about it is, Crispy, I don't even think you have to do that to maintain power or keep a sense of power.
I agree.
I don't think you have to do that. I mean, I know it plays into it, but I don't think it's necessary to stay in power. You know what I mean? Or maintain some sense of power. Yeah. Just show who did what in its real, natural forms. Mm-hmm. Don't tell us about the Model T if you don't tell us about Patterson. Yeah. And his cars and stuff like that. Ford still exists to this day. Yeah. Why don't we see the Patterson brand?
Could have been burned down. We got to look. I'm gonna have to look into that one.
Let's look that up. Yeah. And see. We could do a podcast on an invention and stuff and see what happened to Patterson's company and why Ford still exists and why all the other car companies still exist. Yeah. From the Italians, the Bugattis, this, that, and other, and the Porsche from a turn of the century. Patterson was around the same time. Yeah. I mean, why did his car company not? Why isn't his company still here? Yeah. But all the other ones are. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff trips me out, man.
Yeah, definitely gets to me. Yeah. Because again, for me, it. I just see the big, like how it keeps us suppressed. You don't, again, by not having someone to look up to or be admired, or just someone to influence you, to give you that impression, or the will to do something extra. That all that is is missing within the education, that or the history that's being taught. So I don't know. I might be repeating myself over and over, but it's just it's dumbfounding, remarkable, and like you said, I don't get how a society thinks that by doing this, it's going to keep them in power, because again, it's not. I mean, well, I do kind of get it, but it doesn't make sense, because you could suppress a group so much that it hinders your own growth.
Yep. That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Yes, sir. Well, I don't know. You have anything else to add to it?
Nothing really else to add. Sorry.
All right, cool. Well, that's it, guys. I mean, just to kind of sum this episode up, we need to just get the curriculum changed in the schools so that kids are taught a true history, not just a history skewed to favor one particular race.
And if I will add, and it shouldn't only happen in Black History Month either.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that.
I meant to add that part. It should be
Black History, period.
Yeah, it should just be part of the curriculum when Black History comes around. Yeah, I would then do, something that's considered either a part of that culture, because not just Black History, but there's different groups that celebrate have a month or a time period, and during that time, I definitely say you embrace that culture, but it shouldn't be the only thing, and I'm talking about Black History because that's where I'm upset about, but at the same time, it would have been interesting to know more about Latin influence in the United States, or the Asian Americans, how they've influenced things in the United States, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things that they do too. So
you wonder what I wonder though in school, and I should have asked my daughter, but I wonder if during Black History Month, if all they do is just show the same stuff that they
every year. Yeah, I kind of wonder that.
That's in the books. They don't bring anything special out. They don't talk about Patterson and
they should.
And the woman from Hidden Figures. I wonder if they bring anything special out in that month. And if they do, that's a travesty in itself. Yeah. So you only show a certain amount of stuff, and during that month you'll give them a little extra. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying they do that.
Yeah. Or I don't want to have to hear I have a dream every February, because I think that's like you've heard it a few times. I get we get it, but there's more to Black History Month than just
it should just exist. Black History. It shouldn't be no special month, guys.
Correct.
You should always be talking about discussing Black History throughout the entire year, and just make it a part of the school curriculum, and stop, like I said before, giving these kids a skewed view to benefit your race and your race only. That's whack. That's what I got to say about that. I'm going to make sure that I teach my daughter the right things. And in the description, I'm going to leave information about Diddy's schools in New York and the one in LA that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the description for you guys.
And I was going to earlier and I forgot to just say that, I know a person could send their child to a charter school, and one nice thing about, I remember listening to a show where a gentleman talked about education and had mentioned charter schools, and I know charter schools are not something like I'm really a fan of, but the thing that he said that kind of made me go, oh, that's an interesting aspect to it, is charter schools, you actually have a better chance of developing the curriculum and what what your kids are learning. So exactly as Imani's mentioning, there are charter schools that will cater, their education for a particular style.
Yeah.
And I mean, it should still be well-rounded, but the fact that you can, as a parent or as an instructor, whatever, influence your child's education directly, more than like sending them to public school or even maybe to a parochial school, or is that what it's called? I mean, for me, it was Catholic school, but something like that, or private school.
Because
charter schools are really good.
In South Central is a private school, actually.
Okay.
It's not even a charter. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Diddy's schools that he started are charters.
Charter. Okay.
That's what I think. I could be wrong, too. But I'll definitely find out, like I said, and leave those descriptions in the section below for you guys on all the platforms, So, yeah, man, I guess that's it. It's the HPR Chronicles. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on social media, like we always say. And, email us at rptalktruth@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Peace.
That's it. Peace.